The fine folks at Genmitsu reached out to me once again, wanted me to do another review for them. So this is the newest laser on the market. This is the Genmitsu Kintix. The way this laser operates is really unique. It blends the galvo technology with standard axis movement to make this thing incredibly fast. I can hear you now saying, Steve, what the heck does that mean? I didn't know either, so I looked into it, and what I found out was pretty cool. As this laser head sits, it can hit that square perimeter. For ease of use, we're just going to call that 4-inch square. Without having to move on the X or the Y axis, it can hit that perimeter by bouncing that laser beam on those mirrors. If it does need to move out in the X axis, left or right, it can move slightly on that gantry and still hit those outer perimeters of the Y. With the laser beam being 0.01 millimeter, which is incredibly small, this thing can get very, very high detail in a very short amount of time. So when you get this thing out of the box, it comes really well packed with a bunch of styrofoam to make sure that laser head doesn't get jostled around during shipping. In addition to that, you'll get a little care package. You'll have some safety glasses. You'll have a USB drive, and then you'll have some cords, one to hook up to power and then one to hook up to your computer or your laptop. So let's do a quick tail of the tape here. Power, this thing is 5 watts, and they also offer a 10-watt version. Working area, this thing is 200 millimeters by 100 millimeters, or 7 7/8 of an inch by 3 7/8 of an inch. The speed, this thing can run up to 1500 millimeters a second. The laser size is 0.01 millimeters. The operating system, they have their own system. It's called CutLab X. You can use that, or I prefer to use Lightburn myself. This thing can be used wired or wireless. In order to focus the laser, there is a 2-dot system that you can align using arrows on the top of the machine. And for safety, this thing is fully enclosed. It has automatic shutoff and overheat protection. The first thing I want to do before anything else is I want to replace this metal spoil board with one made out of MDF. I want to do that for 2 reasons. Number 1, even though this is fully enclosed, I don't want the laser beam hitting this metal and taking some crazy ricochet, finding its way out of here and harming anybody's eyes. And number 2, I want to be able to ghost run the profile of whatever project I'm going to use, so that way I can get perfect alignment. So I need something that's going to be replaceable. If I'm running a bunch of projects on this, it is going to have a bunch of those old projects traced out in here, and I want to be able to swap that out in and out a whole bunch of times with like a cheaper material. So I've got Lightburn open up here, and I just measured the actual metal insert, and I'm just going to make this about 1/8 inch smaller all the way around. So I've got my radius corners there in the front and the back, and then I'm just going to send this over to the X-Tool D1 Pro, and I'm going to cut this out, and then I will have the perfect substrate for my laser. Okay, so here are the 2 substrates side by side. You can see the difference in them, and then you can see that this MDF one is just slightly smaller than the stock one, and that is to sit in there inside that recess. This does have that small lip so the metal can't fall down. You can frame these projects out one of 2 ways. Number 1, you can use the framing function in your software where it will do a trace of the outline of your project in very low power. And then you can just take your hand and adjust it, get it just right, but this can be a little bit finicky. With this MDF spoil board in there, I can burn the profile in there very lightly. You can just see it there. It just got through the surface there. And now I can set my blank on there exactly where it needs to go. And you'll see I'll run this trace program, and that gives me the perfect outline each and every time. Very easy. Now that we got that out of the way, let's test it. So now with that outline, this thing is a piece of cake to set up. I can just set my coaster right in there, and now I know I have perfect alignment. This is just one of those standard slate coasters. You can get these in bulk on Amazon, anything like that. That lasered area turns almost golden, and it's just a real nice difference between the golden lasered area and then the black of the slate. So this is a comparison between the finished coaster and my Lightburn project, and you can see that thing produced incredibly fine detail. I'm loving how this looks so far. Got one of those number 2 pencils on here. I'm just going to run the framing feature, and once I like my alignment, which I do, I'm just going to hit play and let this thing go. I'm really excited to see how well of detail this thing can get. So this right here is real time. This is not sped up at all. It's doing a great job. Can't wait to see how this thing turns out. Lift the shield and take a look at it. Wow, those letters are so easy to read. That is incredibly fine detail. I don't think I could get that with my other laser. So here we are on the website, and this thing says it can do plastic. Doesn't really tell me what kind of plastic. So I'm going to 3D print some blanks out of PLA and also PETG, and I'm going to test those out to see if this laser can mark those. So I know that a galvo fiber laser can mark 3D printed projects really well. What it basically does is vaporizes the pigment in the filament, so you're left with a perfectly smooth surface, but that ultra fine detail. So I'm really excited to see if this laser can do the same. With this being a diode, I'm not quite sure if it can, but let's try it out. I set up a bunch of different speeds and feeds with this. I don't really have high hopes for this. I have another diode laser that can't really interact with plastic that well. I know a fiber laser can, so I'm just going to stop this test here. I think it's a fail. Another great use for this laser, I make a bunch of these cutting boards, and as you can see, it is way too big to fit inside of that laser, or really almost any laser. But sometimes I want to put something on the bottom, a date, a signature, a little note to somebody. So that's where this is really exciting. I can set it on here, pop the bottom off, and now I can just engrave whatever I want, wherever it'll fit on this cutting board. This is a great way to add customization to any of your projects, especially something large like this. These typically cost a decent amount of money, so any sort of little added extras you can put on these type of projects really make a big difference. And I think adding a little note like this, or your signature, or somebody's name, or a date like that, I think it goes a long way to making this thing feel fully custom for somebody. And I think it's going to help a lot in the sales of these items. So if you do craft shows, if you sell things on Etsy, you sell stuff online, little notes like this, little added extras go a long way to the customer. I love how light and portable this laser is, but I want to make it just a little bit more portable by adding a handle to the top of it. Sure, you could drill holes and screw into there, but I think that would void your warranty. You could also cut the plastic on the sides just to make this sit a little bit flatter, but that would also void your warranty. So I think something like this is perfect. It slides on there, it looks good, it holds well, and then it can just slide right back off whenever you don't want it. Over the past week and a half, I have tested this laser. I put it through its paces. I made a couple of small modifications. And I gotta say, I'm pretty excited about it. I really like this laser. I think it's a good buy. The 5 watt, which is the one that I tested, I think they have a sale now. It's $431 USD. I think the 10 watt is like $493 or something. For the extra 60 bucks, I would get the 10 watt. It'll just help you go that much faster. You saw all the different projects I did with it, and it handled everything well except for the 3D printing. And I didn't really have high hopes for that either. The wavelength of this just can't interact with plastic the same way that a fiber laser does with that higher wavelength. But other than that, this thing did really well. What I'm excited most about this laser is the fact that it is portable. Not only can you pop the bottom off and then set this wherever you want to add customization to things you never could before. You can bring this out to your workshop. You can bring it to a job site. Pop that bottom off, set it on whatever surface you want, and now you've just added a whole nother level of detail to your projects. But also, you can take this to an outdoor craft show and add customization to pieces while the customers shop. They can come back and now you've got their coaster done. You've added an inscription, a happy wedding, congratulations, I hope you enjoy your day to the bottom of a cutting board. And now you've just upped that level of customization and quality to those customers, and they are absolutely gonna love that.